Hi there. In this episode, I'll show you how you can create a lyrical video like this.
Walking alone in the middle of the night, we shine bright than a diamond. We were strangers at the start, now we can't be apart. Sitting in the back of the cab, listen to hits from the past. Memories slowly arouse. I can't stop thinking about you. I can't stop thinking about you. Whenever I'm not with you, it feels like falling down. I can't stop thinking about you. Stop thinking about you. Stop thinking about you. Stop thinking about you.
So first of all, you need a track that you need to create a lyrical video for and the image. I usually just go on Google and look for an image that I like. So I'm just gonna search for romantic wallpaper and I'm just gonna put the dimensions 1920 by 1080p. That's gonna give me a HD wallpaper. So for this tutorial, I'm gonna use this image. So it has a black foreground and a colored background. So once you have your track and the image, then go ahead and open Adobe After Effects. So for this tutorial, I'm not going to use any third-party plugins. So everything that I'm going to use in this tutorial, it's already built into the application, to the software. So you'll be able to follow along. So I'm just going to go composition, new composition, make sure it's 1920 by 1080p to get HD result. And the duration can be 5 minutes depending on your track. You can always adjust it, and frame rate I'm going to use 30 frames per second, and okay. And then I'm going to bring in my track and the image file into this composition. So first of all, I'm gonna separate the foreground and the background so I can add some effects, some overlays in between, so it's gonna look cool. Usually what I do is I use applications like Adobe Illustrator or Adobe Photoshop to separate images, but for this tutorial I'm just gonna do everything in After Effects so you don't have to switch between two different applications. So to separate this, I'm going to use an effect called linear color key. But before I do that, I'm going to make sure that I create a duplicate of this layer. So now I'm going to duplicate this layer. Duplicate it, I'm going to press Ctrl or Command on the keyboard and D. So it's going to create a duplicate layer. So I'm just going to hide this background layer, and this top layer I'm gonna create a foreground layer. So I'm gonna remove the background on this layer. So I'm gonna go Effect, Key, Linear Color Key, and choose the color that I would like to remove. In this case, the blue color. Right now you might not see it clearly. That's because the background color is black as well. So if you just click on this button, Toggle Transparency Grid, it will show you everything that's transparent. So the blue is removed along with the black. So I'm just going to adjust this from here and make sure we have black still remained like that. I'm going to do this effect again and remove some white. So Effect, Key, Linear Color Key. This time I'm going to select white. Again, Layer, Effect, Key, Linear Color Key, and make sure we select this color. we can add it again. Effect, keying, linear color key, and this color. So now we have the foreground. We can rename it foreground. And then I'm going to select this. I'm going to hide this and visible this. So in this image, I'm going to remove the foreground and keep the background. So I'm going to go effect, keying, linear color key. This time I'm going to select black. So I'm going to make sure we still have some blue left. That's good. So we have the background. And then we have the foreground. Now I can toggle transparency grid again and it should go back to normal. And I'm going to rename this, press enter, and rename this background. That's good. So now I'm going to add overlay in between those images. I'm going to add a snow effect. So I have provided two different video files, two different snow files. The link would be in the description. Just click on it and it should take you to this page. So I'm just going to download snow. Download snow, and I'm going to bring it in between my background and foreground layer. So this is how it looks. As you can see, it only goes for about 4.5 seconds, and we want to make sure it loops throughout the whole video. So I'm going to duplicate this layer, Control or Command D. So now it's just going to keep on looping the snow. Again, Control Command D. So I'm just going to loop it to the entirety of my song. So the track ends here. So I'm just going to keep on looping it. Click on the bottom one, hold Shift, and then click on the top one, Control or Command D. It's going to duplicate all three of them. Just align them. Same thing again. So now the snow covers the whole track. So the timeline is really long now. So I'm going to click the bottom one and hold Shift and select the last one. Right click, pre-compose, and just put it inside a folder so it's more organized. So now all the snow is in one folder. Cool. So that is that. And throughout the track there is some EDM drops. So I'm gonna go to that part, and when the music drops or the beat drops, so at this point the beat drops. So I'm gonna use the other overlay that I provided, Rain Blizzard. I'm gonna download that, and it's basically snow but it's like a blizzard. So I'm gonna bring that in and make sure it's in between foreground and background. So the snow that we had, we didn't have any black background because it was an alpha channel file. This overlay is a video file, so it doesn't have a transparent background, but it's really easy to remove. You can just choose the blending mode from here. If you can't see this option, you might have a switch. You might have to toggle switch between two different channels. So you might have an option here. You can click on it and it will show you the blending modes, or you can just click here, columns, modes. It should bring it up, and just select add. It should remove the background. So as you can see, it just comes in. So if you want to make it a really smooth transition, you press T on the keyboard and it should bring up the opacity. Click on the stopwatch to add a keyframe. So the opacity should be 0 when it starts. And as you go forward, it should go 100. So 0 and then 100. It's gonna create a smooth transition. And right now the snow is really small. To make it a bit more intense, I'm gonna scale the size up. So I'm gonna press S on my keyboard. That will bring up the scale, and I'm just gonna scale the snow up to make it look a bit more intense. That's looking good. Let's see where it ends. That's where it ends. So I'm gonna press T again. Opacity, at this point it should be 100, and then it should go to 0. And then it will go back to normal. The beat drops again in this track, I think somewhere here. You can simply just Control or Command D and bring it here. So you can just duplicate it. For this tutorial, I'm not going to do the whole track because it's the same technique. I'm just going to end my video here. So if your track ends there, you can bring this work area up to where your track ends, and it will only export that up to that track. If you have work area across the whole thing, even though your track ends here, it's gonna render the rest of the part as well, which is no point. You don't need that. So make sure where your track ends, you bring the work area there. For demonstration purposes, I'm just gonna do up to here because the rest is pretty repetitive, so you can just use the techniques that I use here and just copy and paste. You already have the drop, you just have to add the lyrics and your song and your track should be good to go. So now we have separated the images, we have snow, we have the blizzard. So now we have the background already made, so we can put it inside a folder so it's more organized. So I'm gonna click on the background, hold shift and select up to foreground, right click, pre-compose, rename it video. So now it's more organized and the video just starts like this. To add a bit of a fade in effect, I'm gonna press T on my keyboard and click on the stopwatch for opacity. It will start off with 0, 0, and it will go 100, so it will create a fade in effect. You can do the same thing at the end where your track ends. Opacity should be 100 and then 0, so it will create a fade out effect. That's that. And at the start I'm just going to put the title of the track. So I'm going to add a blur effect, Gaussian blur. So just type blur in effects and preset. If you don't have effects and preset here, just click on Windows, effects and preset. It should pop up here and just type blur and select Gaussian blur. Click and drag it on your video. I'm just gonna put blurriness 20%. So when the track starts, the blurriness should go away. So I'm gonna add a stopwatch. Up to this point, the blurriness stays. When the track starts, it should go back to 0. Cool. So I'm just going to add a title. For this tutorial, the font that I'll be using is called Artbrush. So if you go on this website called DAFONT and search for Artbrush, you'll be able to download it. It's 100% free. I think I already have it. So once you download it, you can extract it. You can extract it and install it. So I'm going to choose the text tool from here, type type the name of the track, change the font from here. If you don't have the character tab, again Windows, character, it should pop up. Type the font name, Artbrush, or you can use any other font that you like. This is just the one that I'm using. And my settings a bit changed because I have used different fonts before, so my kerning is all different. Make sure your kerning is 0, and that way your font won't have any unexpected space in between. So that's the title. So as you can see right now, you can't see the title properly because the background is white and the text is white. To be able to see it more clearly, I'm just going to add a bit of gradient behind the text. To add that, I'm going to go Layer, New, Solid. Make sure you select black. Then I'm going to select the shape tool, rectangle shape tool. Before that, click and drag it down behind the text or underneath the text and create a box around it. And press F on your keyboard. It's going to bring up the feather. And you can just feather it out to make it a bit more smoother. Then press T and bring the opacity down a little bit so it's not too visible and you can still read the text. Lastly, go to Effects and Preset and search for Drop Shadow. Bring that on top of the text layer and do a bit of softness. That's gonna make your text stand out a bit more. So that's looking good. Now I'm just gonna add a fade in effect on this text. So same thing, press T for opacity. It will start off with 0, then it will go 100%. And then it should fade out. So up to this point, it should stay 100%, and then it will go to 0. And I'm just gonna end this layer here. So press Ctrl or Command on your keyboard, followed by Shift and D. That will split the layer, and just press Delete. That should delete the layer. And right now the text seems very still. There's not much going on with it. There's no effect. So we're gonna add a wiggle effect to it. To add a wiggle effect, go to Layer, New, Solid. Choose any color, it doesn't really matter. Then go to Effects and Preset. Search for Fractal Noise. Click and drag that in. Expand the evolution options and press Alt or Option on your keyboard and click on this stopwatch. That should bring up this expression. Just type time *7. That's just gonna make this effect a little bit faster. Then right click on this effect and pre-compose. Make sure you move all attributes into the new composition and just call it wiggle effect. And you can just hide this effect, you don't need to see it. Then go to your Effects and Preset again, search for displacement map, click and drag that in on top of your text. Then it will ask you which displacement map layer would you like to select, and just select the wiggle effect, and it should create a wiggle effect on your text. I know there are a few different steps that you have to remember, but once you do it once, then you don't have to do it again. You can just duplicate this layer and the effect should stay on the layer. so it will be easy. You just have to do it once. So now we don't have to do it again, and the text looks great. That's done. And one thing I would also like to do, if I go inside the video folder and bring in the audio file again, I'm just going to create a white glow on this moon so it will react to the beat. It looks a bit cool. So what I'm going to do is select the ellipse tool and make sure there is no layer selected, because if the layer is selected and you create any shape, it will create a mask. We don't want to create a mask, we would like to create a shape. So make sure no layer is selected and just create a circle. Even if you don't have a moon in your image that you're using, if you just have a small thing or anything, or you can still add a circle because it's not going to be really visible. It's just going to be a really white glow, so it doesn't matter. For stroke, we don't want any stroke. Fill, we want white fill, and I'm gonna add Gaussian blur to it. Gaussian blur, and then I'm gonna add glow. Glow radius and glow intensity. I'm gonna rename this layer to glow, and I'm gonna click and drag it underneath the foreground, so it should be on top of the background and underneath the foreground, so it should be behind these kids. And I'm gonna right click on this audio and click on keyframe assistant, convert audio to keyframes. It's gonna create keyframes based on this audio. So if you expand it, you can see all these keyframes. We don't need left and right, we need both channels. So I'm gonna click left, right, and left channels. Both channels are alright. And if you click on the glow and press T for transparency, so we want the transparency to react to the beat. So press Alt or Option on your keyboard and click on the stopwatch and expression pickup whip. Click on it and link it to this slider. Now the glow is gonna react to the audio. So right now the music is slow. When the beat drops, it should react. So I know it's really subtle, but it makes a difference. It looks good. So once you have that, you can mute the audio, so you don't have the audio twice. Now that's done. We have the title. Now we can just duplicate this title. Press Ctrl or Command followed by D. That will duplicate it. And this layer, you can choose the name of the artist. So Rival X Cadmium. I'm just gonna make the X a bit smaller. So this is where the track starts. So I'm gonna press T and make this a bit shorter. So if you don't know the lyrics of the song, you can always Google it. Walking alone in the middle of the night. So I'm gonna put each letter on a different layer. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different layers. So Control or Command D and then Command D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Double click on the first layer, just type walking in the middle of the walking alone in the middle. This can go here. That doesn't have to be in order, but I just like them to be in order. Walking alone in the middle of the night. So now you can just put them how you like them. Walking alone. You can resize them to emphasize some of the words. Walking alone in. I'm just gonna lock this layer so we don't accidentally select them. Video and figure effect. Walking alone in the middle of. If you want to zoom in, you can always zoom in using this, or you can use a mouse wheel. I'm just using a trackpad. So walking alone in the middle of the night. And now we just have to put them where the person or the singer actually says that. So just play the track. I'm just pressing the spacebar to play the track. That's a different D. That's the D I need. In the middle of the night. So just align them with the track. And once all the words have been said, just select all the layers, press T, add a keyframe, and add a keyframe at 100 and add a keyframe at 0, Command Shift D, and delete all the layers. So it looks more organized. And then we can just duplicate this. Control or Command D, bring them up, and the next is we shine brighter than a diamond. We shine brighter than a diamond. We have two extras. We shine brighter than a diamond. Whichever location you think it will work best, you can just place them there. There's no right or wrong. And then next, we were strangers at the start. Click, hold Shift, Control Command D. We were strangers at the start. We were strangers at the start. And then now we can't be apart. Now we can't be apart. Extra delete. So you get the idea. You can just duplicate and change the lyrics. And one more thing I'll just show you is once you have all the lyrics done, just compile all these files together. Again, make sure you unlock all the files. Right click, pre-compose, name it final or whatever you like it. And once the beat drops, so this is where the beat drops. So I'm just going to duplicate this layer, Control or Command D, and then Control Shift D to separate it, and delete this part, and up to wherever that beat goes to. Control Shift D again, and then delete this. So this part I'm gonna add a bit more dramatic effect again. So I'm gonna right click, keyframe assistant, convert audio to keyframe. Again, delete left and right channels. This time we're gonna add scale instead of transparency. So I'm gonna press S on the keyboard, press and hold Option or Alt on keyboard, click on the stopwatch and parent it to slider. When you do that, so it's going to scale it down. To keep it on 100%, you just add this code plus open bracket 100, 100 and close bracket. It should scale it up to 100% and it should react to the beat. So once you have the lyrics inside it, it will look even more better. So let's just add those. Since we took the audio outside, I'm gonna add the audio again. Click and drag it again. He says, I can't stop thinking about you. I can't stop thinking about you. Control Command D. So you get the idea. So this is how the final product looks. So once you add all the lyrics, complete the song, this is how it should look, and make sure you save the project as well. Before we play it, there's one last thing that I normally do, add a letterbox. So if you like to add it, just go layer, new, solid, make sure it's black. Select the rectangle tool and create a border like this, and click on invert it. It should create a letterbox. So just kind of looks like a cinematic video. So it's optional if you like to add it. If you don't like to add it, you don't have to, but I kind of like it. Let's see how it looks. So that's the title. Then we get the lyrics. And it will continue, and when the beat drops, this is how it will look. Make sure you only have one audio. So then it will continue, and so once your track finishes, you can just fade out. To save it, you go File, Export, add to media encoder if you're using that, or you can use add to render queue and choose the setting that you normally use. I normally use QuickTime, and make sure it's 32-bit audio quality, and OK. Before you render it, make sure you close this composition, otherwise it will just play as you're rendering it and it's going to slow your computer down. So make sure you close it and click on render. I'm not going to render it because I've already done this project before, so I already have the video file. But once you render it, it should be good to go. And that's it. Hope you find this tutorial helpful. If you have any questions or any requests for another tutorial, make sure you comment down below or let me know on Instagram or Facebook. Other than that, have a great day and I'll see you guys later.